Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas says more military formation will be established to curtail bandits' activities in Zaria. 35-year-old man commits suicide in Jigawa due to economic hardship. NIMET predicts a 3-day nationwide cloudy weather from Friday. Also in the news, Kenya bans churches linked to 400 cult deaths. Many thanks for joining us at this news hour. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. We start in Kaduna as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, says additional military formation will be established to mitigate the activities of bandits in Zaria. The Speaker gave the assurance during a condolence visit to the Emir of Zazzau over the death of worshippers in Zaria Mosque last week, Friday. The report.
The Speaker said the purpose of the visit was to commiserate with the Emirate over the mosque's collapse and cases of bandit attack in Zaria City and environs. Abbas said the leadership of the National Assembly has engaged relevant security agencies on better modalities toward addressing the challenge, noting that the engagement has yielded result as the Nigerian army as routes used by the bandit has been identified.
Well, to take this unfortunate incident as an act of God, and God in His infinite mercy will grant the soul of those who lost their lives in Al-Jannah Firdausi. And as for us, we have resolved to support the reconstruction of the mosque whenever the estimate for the repairs or the renovation or reconstruction of the mosque is made available to us.
The Speaker also said he will work closely with the Emirate Council on the quick and timely renovation of the collapsed mosques. The Emir of Zazzau, Ahmed Bamali, specifically suggested establishment of such military camps around Kuregu, Kugu, and other western axes of the ancient city of Zaria. I want to sincerely express my gratitude to the Speaker and his entourage for the condolence visit. Mr. Speaker, the entire people of Zazzau Emirate were thrown into grief due to the collapsed mosques and the bandit attack. We are glad for your condolence visit. We thank you for finding out time to be here. Today is exactly 7 days that the unfortunate incidents occurred. We are hopeful that those who lost their lives are in Jannatul Firdaus. There are two things to it. First, they attended the Jumu'at prayer, and during the Asr prayer, the unfortunate incident occurred. Secondly, they died on Friday, and we all know what that means in Islam. Again, they were in the middle of prayer, and it was Asr prayer. So their death was significant. We pray Almighty Allah to grant them Jannatul Firdaus. Some principal officers of the National Assembly made donations for the renovation of the mosque that collapsed last week. Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed, Trust TV News, Zaria.
And in Sokoto, Hadiza Ahmed, a resident of Gidan Alassen in Rara district of Rabah local government area of Sokoto State, is a mother of 7 displaced by bandits 2 years ago. Hadiza now lives in a makeshift camp at Rabah town with her family. Abubakar Imam reports that the abduction of her 12-year-old daughter by bandits has compounded an already bad situation for the displaced mother and her children. His report.
It is just few minutes after a heavy downpour, with many internally displaced persons warming themselves in their makeshift accommodation because of the cold weather. But Hadiza Ahmed defies this biting cold, moving around desperately to see how she could raise some money to secure the release of her 12-year-old daughter, who has been in captivity for the last 1 month. The daughter was abducted by bandits along with 4 other children while fetching firewood for her mother at the nearby bush. The bandits had earlier demanded 200,000 naira, which was raised through donations from relatives and other members of the community. But when the money was taken to them, the bandits rejected the money, raising it to 500,000 naira.
We came here from Gidan Larson village. We were displaced by bandits. I'm in a serious agony right now because my daughter has been in captivity for the last 4 weeks and we don't have the money to secure her release. I sent her to the nearby bush to fetch firewood for me when the bandits abducted her and 3 of her friends that accompanied her. She did not eat anything before they were taken away because the firewood was meant to prepare their breakfast. The abductors are demanding for 500,000 naira to free her alone. Initially, they demanded 200,000 naira, which were donations from our relatives and other members of the community. When the money was taken to them, they rejected it that they would not accept anything less than 500,000 naira. We don't know how to raise the money because even what to eat has always been a problem to us. We're appealing for help. We want our daughter back because she's too young to be subjected to this kind of cruelty.
Another displaced person, Aisha Abubakar, said they have not been getting any support from any quarter.
We have not been getting any support since we came to this place 2 years ago. People have been coming to take our names, but nothing comes out of it up to this moment. We have been hearing about other displaced people getting support, but this has not reached our camp. Look at the condition we're living in. We don't have decent accommodation. We don't have portable water and food to eat. We're only surviving on handouts from the locals.
According to the document obtained from the Sokoto State Emergency Management Agency, 10,555 individuals from 3,091 households are currently staying in the camp, which is codenamed Raba Stadium Camp. Out of the total number, 7,938 are children. The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Welfare and Humanitarian Affairs, Amina Mohammed Jakada, said the state government has been up and doing in attending the flight of the IDPs in the state. She noted that there is arrangement on ground to return them back to their respective villages after the rainy season. From Raba Stadium Camp for IDPs, Abubakar Awal Imam, Trust TV, Raba in Sokoto State.
Well, earlier I spoke to Bulama Bukarti, a senior fellow at the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change and a lawyer on the state of insecurity in northern Nigeria.
It is tragic, unfortunately, what has been happening lately. Of course, we know that banditry or terrorism has always ebbed and flowed in Nigeria. It has become like an annual ritual where we see resurgence and decline of attacks at different seasons. And in particular, in rainy seasons, we have over the years observed that attacks always go up, and that's because the environment becomes more friendly for evil forces to operate, because the forests where bandits and terrorists are operating get darker or more dense in the rainy season, and therefore they find it more difficult to operate because access to those areas become restricted, and security and law enforcement agencies find it difficult to move around those areas. So I would say that's part of what we have seen in the past couple of weeks. But if we looked at the data, if we took a step back and looked at the last 3 months, we will see an increasing surge in the number of fatalities and individuals abducted. We saw a fall in May, but in June and July, what we saw, for example, in June, over 800 Nigerians were killed and over 300 were abducted. And in July, over 400 were killed. 552 were killed and almost 300, over 300 were abducted. So the situation has always been like this, but it is when we have these kinds of big incidents, like the incident we saw in Niger State, where 25 soldiers and officers died, that this issue comes to the headline. But Nigerians in rural areas of Zamfara, of Katsina, of Sokoto, and of course of Niger and Kaduna State have been suffering for months. And I think we need to do more to improve security across the country. As for our soldiers who have died, we know that they died in the course of their national assignment. They died as heroes for Nigeria. We should celebrate them and honor them as heroes and support their families in the best way possible. It could be about manpower, but we need to do more around logistics and emergency response. For example, the question of access has always been on and off every year, and that's because the rural areas, the forests, the jungles where these criminal elements operate are inaccessible because there are no roads there or other infrastructure. And because our military uses heavy-duty machinery, it becomes very difficult for them to access and operate in those areas. And therefore, I would think part of the response we should expect, we should see from the Nigerian security and law enforcement agencies is more mobility into areas where there are no tarred roads, where there are even, where the roads are even non-motorable. And for that, you need perhaps lighter machinery or even motorcycles that they could use to operate, because we know the criminal elements are using small, ultra-powerful Chinese-made motorcycles to hit and then run into the bush. And unless you are as mobile as they are or even more, it is difficult to tackle them. And so more manpower, but more or better use of our current manpower, but also better equipment in terms of mobility, in terms of intelligence, and in terms of operations. That's a major concern, and it is possible that some criminal elements may start moving from Niger, but we haven't seen evidence of that happening on the ground. And we have also seen surge of attacks in Niger itself over the past 2-3 weeks. And so I would think even if there are criminal elements flowing into Nigeria, there are substantial numbers still in Niger. And I think what we are seeing in Nigeria in the past couple of weeks is this annual ritual of resurgence around rainy season. And we should be talking actively, we should be planning actively to tackle those kinds of occurrences now that we know they happen every year. We should put systems in place, response mechanisms in place in order to tackle this annual ritual and unfortunate annual ritual.
I was Bulang Bukarti, a barrister, speaking to us via Zoom earlier on the state of insecurity, kidnapping and banditry generally in northern Nigeria. Staying with security-related matters, the police in Plateau State say a suspect accused of cutting off the hand of a farmer in Lakushi community of Shandam local government area of the state has been arrested. The spokesperson of the police command, DSP Alabo Alfred, who gave the name of the suspect as Abdurrahman Kaila, identified the victim as Jeremiah Yang. Ado Musa reports from Jos.
According to the spokesperson of the command, the incident was reported and the Commissioner of Police, Okoro Julius, instructed the DPO of the area to go after the suspect. The herder was subsequently arrested. The suspect said he did not intend to cut off the hands of the farmer and regretted his action against the farmer during the disagreement.
We got the news and the Commissioner of Police was miffed and immediately instructed the DPO, standing very close to me here, to go for this perpetrator of that evil act. And by the grace of God, upon the swift action of the able DPO, CSP CSP Danladi Rinjwat, the suspect was arrested.
I was grazing when the farmer stopped me and asked me to go back, as the area where I was grazing is rice farm. When I got back, he complained that his farm was destroyed by the cattle. I then pushed the cattle, and before you know, we started fighting. I didn't know how I cut off his hand. I did not do it intentionally. The police spokesperson, however, said after investigation, the suspect will be charged to court. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And in Katsina, the police say a 25-year-old man, Jibrin Yusuf of Kanong Haiki village of Faskari local government area of the state, suspected of raping and killing his victim, is now in their custody. Police spokesperson ASP Sadiq Abubakar, briefing newsmen, says the suspect killed the 8-year-old victim in her father's farm. Abdullahi Yamadi has more on the story.
According to the police, the incident occurred when the father of the girl, one Hassan Jibrin of Kanon Haki village in Faskari local government area, hired the suspect to convey fertilizers to his farm at the outskirts of their village.
The suspect took advantage of the situation, forcefully dragged the little girl to a nearby farm where he raped, used a sharp knife and slaughtered the victim. He further moved the corpse to another location, to another farmland nearby, where he used leaves to cover the dead body of the girl and made away with the 3 bags of the fertilizer that he initially delivered to the farm. Upon receipt of the report, promptly detectives swerved into action and succeeded in arresting the suspect. During the course of investigation, the suspect confessed to the commission of the offense, and the stolen 3 bags of fertilizers were successfully recovered.
Meanwhile, the suspected rapist and killer Jibrin Yusuf confessed to the offense. You know, it is the work of the devil, because something informed me that after raping the little girl, it will be dangerous for me to allow her go home like that. So I raped and killed her. They enabled me steal the 3 bags of fertilizers. However, God is wonderful. And now, here I am. Police operatives in Katsina have arrested 2 notorious informants to bandits who also specialized in coordinating attacks, abductions, and animals wrestling.
The duo criminally conspired, deceived and lured their friend one Salmanu to a point between Funtua and Zamfara State, where they planned with one notorious bandit leader named Gora to kidnap the victim. In the course of investigation, the duo were traced and arrested in connection with the offense, as investigation is ongoing.
The command also added that its operatives on patrol succeeded in arresting a notorious motorcycle thief, Abubakar Abdullahi. The police recovered a motorcycle from the suspect belonging to one Ahmad Lawal Babaye, which was stolen from his house. The suspect mentioned Surajasani Magamarjibia as the receiver of his stolen items, while Sani Abba alias Ubanshegu and Hamis Mamang as his accomplices. The police said the suspect will be charged to court upon completion of investigation. Abdullahi Izumayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Well, in another police-related matter, one person was allegedly killed by police officers at Itobe town in Ofu local government area of Kogi State during an operation to restore order in the community. The incident on Friday triggered further crisis in the community, leading to the destruction of police patrol vans in the police station. The crisis was reported to have started when violent clashes erupted between 2 groups in the community. According to witnesses, the clash took an ugly turn when the police patrol team arrived to restore order, which then led to the death of an individual who was hit by a stray bullet from the police operatives. The State Police Command's Public Relations Officer, SP William Aya, did not respond to text messages or calls when contacted for comment on the development. Now, a court of appeal in Abuja on Friday dismissed an appeal brought before it by Senator Smart Ademi seeking the nullification of the governorship primary election of the All Progressives Congress APC in Kogi State, which produced Ahmed Usman Ododo as the party's flag bearer for the November 11 governorship election. The appellate court held that Smart Ademi's appeal lacked merit and therefore is dismissed. In a unanimous judgment of a 3-man panel of justices of the court, Ademi, who represented Kogi West Senatorial District in the Senate, failed to establish all allegations made against the conduct of the primary elections by APC and its leaders. Justice Muhammad Lawal Shuaib, who delivered the lead judgment, resolved that all three issues in the dispute against Adeyemi. Shuaib said the allegations of manipulations and falsification of the primary election results being criminal ought to have been proven beyond reasonable doubt as required by law. He also dismissed another allegation by the appellant that he was denied a fair hearing by the appeal committee of the APC based on his petition against the alleged unlawful conduct of the primary election. The Court of Appeal upheld the judgment of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja delivered on July 12, and which held that Senator Smart Adeyemi did not prove his allegations that Ododo was not lawfully nominated by the APC. In other news, a 35-year-old man in Jigawa State, Samaila Ilu, has committed suicide due to Nigeria's rising cost of living crisis. Police spokesperson DSP Lawan Shiso Adam confirmed the incident. According to the police spokesperson, the command received a report that the 35-year-old man, Samaila Ilu, of Dungun Tantama village in Kafin Hausa local government area of the state, left his home to an unknown destination. Later, his body was found hanging from a tree, presumably dying from killing himself. The police say his remains have since been released to his relatives for burial rites. Now, some residents in Taraba are now resorting to stealing farm produce to feed their families due to an inability to afford food commodities as a result of skyrocketing food prices. Reports from some communities across the state reveals that incidents of thievery of raw cassava, yam and maize have been recorded in recent weeks. A lady who owned a cassava farm in one of the villages in Ardokola local government area of the state told Daily Trust that she caught her neighbors harvesting cassava in her farm on numerous occasions. The farmer, Lami John, says the culprits confessed to stealing the produce in order to feed his family. Lami stated further that she recorded many more cases in her farm and all those she caught were her neighbors. Further findings reveal that theft of yam and maize in farms is now becoming a new normal in villages across Taraba State. Another farmer, Ibrahim Suleiman, says that he caught his neighbors stealing maize in his farm 4 times, but did not report the matter to the police or to their ward head. According to him, theft of farm produce is now being carried out during the day, and those caught confess that poverty and lack of food at home is pushing them to stealing farm produce. Very disturbing situation there. Now, the Department of State Services has reportedly picked up the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, NASAL, Abbas Umar Masanawa. Although the reasons behind his arrest by the operatives were not or have not yet been ascertained, sources familiar with the matter say his arrest is likely in connection with the ongoing investigation of the suspended central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele. It could be recalled that Masanawa was the managing director of the Nigeria Security Printing and Minting Company before his appointment to NASAL. He was the executive director in charge of the finance and strategy of the same company before he was recommended to head the company by the suspended Apex Bank governor, Godwin Emefiele. Now, the Nigeria Meteorological Agency has predicted cloudiness and sunshine from Friday to Sunday across the country. NIMET's weather outlook forecasts cloudy skies on Friday with intervals of sunshine over the northern region. It anticipated prospects of isolated thunderstorms over parts of Adamawa, Taraba, Kebbi and Sokoto states during the morning hours. The agency envisaged cloudy atmosphere over inland states of the south and coastal states in the morning, with chances of intermittent rains over parts of Osun, Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, Edo, Rivers, Bayelsa, Delta, Akwa Ibom and Cross River states. According to NIMET, cloudy atmosphere with intervals of sunshine expected over the northern part of the country during the morning hours of Saturday, with prospect of thunderstorms over parts of Taraba, Adamawa and Kebbi states with cloudy and intermittent rains in the south. NIMET forecasts cloudy skies on Sunday with sunshine intervals over the northern region, with cloudy atmosphere expected over the inland states of the south and the coastal states in the morning hours. Well, you're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up ahead, we take a look at the growing concern of commuters and pedestrians in the Federal Capital Territory. More news coming up ahead after the break. Join us again. Welcome back to the news, and thank you very much for staying with us. Here's a quick reminder of our top stories at this hour. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas says more military formation will be established to mitigate activities of bandits in Zaria. 35-year-old man commits suicide in Jigawa due to economic hardship. Now, farmers in Benue are raising concerns over lack of storage facilities for farm produce as the harvest season sets in for crops like corn and groundnuts. The farmers are calling on the government to step in and help mitigate post-harvest losses by providing modern storage facilities and processing industries within the value chain. Jimmy Azande reports.
It is harvest time in Benue, and farmers are quick to remember that the farm produce harvested might not necessarily give them returns on investment unless if properly preserved and stored.
Because people who live in rural areas are doing their jobs by making sure that all farm produce are available for consumption. The government has faith in its responsibility in making sure that the good facilities are there for these people to use and be very comfortable.
Most of our rural areas, there are not enough storage facilities for these farmers to store their products and sell it in the near future. And the issue of roads, there are no good roads where farmers can, where the buyers can get access to these places and buy these stuffs.
Other factors they say are the sharp practices of middlemen who mostly benefit from the produce more than the farmers.
It's quite unfortunate that some of our people who are called Baranda people in our markets, they wait for the harvest from our villagers who suffer and ensure that they bring the little they have cultivated from their farms just for them to beat down the price. Those places where we have access roads to the market, when those farmers take their harvest to the market, we have those crop of people called middlemen. They do not take anything to the market, and they end up exploiting the farmers who have taken their produce to the market. They determine the price value for this product. And what those people end up taking home is far less than what the energy they put in, highly incommensurate to the energy they put into the harvest. Also, we can also call this post-harvest loss.
The farmers seek the intervention of government to provide an enabling environment for them to reap from their labor of tilling the soil.
You see, if you go to the villages, most of the times where farming activities are usually done, you discover that most of these farmers, they lack adequate training on how to fertilize their farms, that is yams. You know, there are some places where if you over-apply fertilizer, it won't be good. It won't be good. What am I saying? The government should at least organize training or let's say enlightenment on how they should use their fertilizers.
At the moment, despite Bennue's mass production of agricultural produce, there are no facilities or industries that can preserve and process the farm produce. This, they say, gives rise to the middleman syndrome. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
Now, the World Health Organization and U.S. health authorities say they are closely monitoring a new variant of COVID-19, although the potential impact of a BA.2 is currently unknown. Now, the World Health Organization classified the new variant as one under surveillance due to the large number of spike gene mutations it carries. So far, the variant has only been detected in Israel, Denmark and the United States. There are only 4 known sequences of the variant according to the World Health Organization. Now, the organization says it is currently monitoring upwards of 10 variants and their descent lineages. In the last reporting period between July 17th and August 13, more than 1.4 million cases of COVID-19 were detected and more than 2,300 deaths reported according to a statement. Now, caseload represents a rise by 63% from the previous 28-day period, while deaths were down by 56%. As of August 13, there were more than 769 million cases of COVID-19 confirmed and more than 6.8 million deaths, although the World Health Organization says 769 million cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed and more than 6.9 million deaths were recorded, even though they were higher. They could be much higher because many cases went undetected. Now, reckless driving by dispatch riders in Abuja is becoming a source of concern for commuters and other road users. In this report, Noel Sampson speaks to some road users on what can be done and needs to be done to address the trend of reckless driving in the capital city.
The likes of Adebayo Abdulkhalik, Ismaila Shaibu and Friday Peter are part of the hundreds of dispatch riders running the business in Abuja. They share experiences on the reasons for the reckless driving among dispatch riders in the city.
Some of we guys, if you don't collect new bike like this, you dey shark. Go dey like you won't speed, you won't run and finish. So at times it leads to accidents. But at times all these cab drivers, they are the ones that have fault, but they'll still say it's the rider based on they have been having some little issues with the rider.
We are trying to beat the time so that because when you deliver on time, you have another one immediately. Then the more you faster, the more you got another one. So because of that time, when you have to deliver, That is why you see we are trying to meet up. Before you know, all those small accidents will happen.
Not because we want to drive recklessly, but because we have to meet up with time. And the more you deliver, the more order you get and the more money you get at the end of it. If you don't deliver fast, the customers are going to insult you at times. Understand? They will go a long way by insulting you, telling you all sorts of things.
Drivers and commuters blame attitude of the riders as factor responsible for the recklessness.
Some of these dispatch riders, they are under control of the management of the company, and they must make sure they satisfy the management of the company to make sure that these goods are delivered at time. And most receivers of these products don't even understand the fact that there could be an interruption on the way that may interrupt the movement of the dispatch rider, all things being equal.
Most of them I see they don't have orientation, because if they have that full orientation regarding the way they need to drive, that they should be able to understand by the time any taxi park to drop passengers, they should be able to understand that this car that parked here, he didn't just park there, he parked there in order to open the car or passenger want to come down from the car. So definitely, if the car is parked and the driver or the passenger want to open the door, with the orientation they could be able to understand that this door is about to be open because he's parked in this location. Then they should be able to stop.
They always beat traffic lights. Or if as a taxi driver, maybe you park your car, they will not even observe. Before the passenger will open the door, they have jammed the passenger or remove your car door.
They recommended patience for the riders and their customers who may be expecting delivery of goods and services within shortest time. No, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Safe to say that when it comes to reckless driving, there's a lot of blame to go around. Now, residents of Labi area of Monia in Akinyele local government area of Oyo State have staged a protest over the closure of their homes by security operatives. They claim that over 200 houses were sealed off by an individual laying claim to ownership of the land. Spokesman of the residents, Akintunde Adebayo, says most of the affected residents have legal documents as proof of ownership of their lands and homes. The report.
The residents whose houses were sealed appealed to the state government and the Olubadan to wade into the crisis before it gets out of control. But Mogaji Olawole Ladoja, who is the head of Akinshola compound, while reacting to the claims of the residents, said they have 5 judgments in their favor in respect of the land. He claimed that the residents bought the land from the wrong people. Ladoja said the family acted on the court judgment, but they are still open to dialogue and negotiations.
It's unfortunately yesterday, around 9 in our community, we just saw some legions of policemen and thugs. They came to mark our residents in that environment. They closed down some houses. They locked some houses. They even locked in some people. Even my house, among those are locked. Then, because of that, then we have to inform the G5 about it at Olubadan. Then, around in the afternoon, those people came and they met him. But unfortunately, he has done a lot of havoc in the community.
The people that sold the land for them, they have sold it wrongly. Whatever they wanted to do there, being the bona fide owner of the land, they're supposed to pass through us, in which they refuse. So based on that, my predecessor, my senior sisters, mostly all of them, they have gone to court to get redress, in which they get judgment. So before I personally now went to court, and I get judgments. So that judgment is what we are going there yesterday to execute. We are not out. We are not rogues. We cannot, and I will never be a party to a wrong doings.
Meanwhile, the 2 members representing Akinyele constituency 1 and 2 have also intervened and promised to settle the issue amicably.
This is a civilized society, and like the residents of the association, they claim that they were not summoned or they didn't get any paper any court order, any paper inviting them to court or suing them to court. So if a judgment can just come up like this, I don't know, where you have like 500, 1,000 naira, 1,000 inhabitants living in that place, I believe there is a solution to it in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There should be room for negotiation and dialogue. So we'll see him and then we'll call him. We'll call him to order. Perhaps he might not know what he's doing is wrong. So we'll call him to order on that one.
So what's your message to your people outside?
Let them go back to their homes and then remain calm. Let them not foment any trouble. Like I said, the person doing it might not know he's in the wrong. So we'll let them know we are on their side. They should be rest assured that the House of Assembly is on their side.
The Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Lekan Balogun, had recently warned all Mogajis and Baales not to resell any land or property already disposed of by their forebears.
Now, the federal government has inaugurated a solar-powered electric vehicle charging station at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. The Director General, National Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu, on Friday at the inauguration says the organization is committed to technological advancement in the automotive industry. Aliyu said this would reduce the use of fossil fuel vehicles that pollute the environment and contributes to global warming. Aliyu, represented by Olarewaju Omusanya, the Director of Infrastructure in NADDC, says Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, and the University of Lagos, alongside the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, were the 3 universities selected for the pilot project. Still watching the news on Trust TV. We'll now take a quick break. We'll be back with more news stories after this. Join us again. Right, welcome back to the news, and thank you very much for staying with us. Now, for today's briefing in business, let's join Chiamaka Nwafor for the latest.
The total amount of currency in circulation in the country dropped from 2.69 trillion naira as of the end of June 2023 to 2.59 trillion naira as of the end of July in the same year. This is the first time the figure has dropped since February 2023. Figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria show that this represents a drop of 7.51 billion naira in 1 month. Currency in circulation is defined as all legal tender in the hands of the general public and of the votes of the deposit money banks. Prior to January 2023, the total amount of currency in circulation in the country dropped from 3.29 trillion naira as of the end of October 2022 to 1.38 trillion naira as at the end of January 2023 as a result of the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria has introduced a foreign exchange price verification program PVS portal to enable importers to access Forex. The CBN in a statement said the price verification report from the portal is now mandatory for all Form M requests effective from August 31st, 2023. The Form M is a declaration of intention to import physical goods into Nigeria. CBN also said any case of infraction would be appropriately sanctioned. This adjustment signifies the CBN's continuing efforts to streamline and regulate financial transactions and documentation in the banking sector. And finally, the Financial Services Regulation and Coordinating Committee FSRCC and the National Broadcasting Commission NBC have asked the public to report illegal financial operators to law enforcement agencies. The announcement was contained in an advisory issued. The FSRCC said unlicensed or illegal financial operators lure and defraud unsuspecting members of the public by offering extraordinary returns on investments as bait. The committee encouraged citizens to refrain from dealing with IFOs and verify the licensing status of companies and schemes on the websites of the CBN, SEC, NICAM and PENCAM before investing in them. The FSRCC also said its member agencies will continue to engage in regular sensitization campaigns on the threats posed by the activities of IFOs.
Now let's turn our attention to developments on the international scene, and the Consul General of South Africa in Nigeria, Professor Bobby Moro, has lauded Nigeria's Big Brother role in advancing the cause of a better African continent at an event in Asaba, Delta State, to commemorate the International Nelson Mandela Day. The Consul General describes Nigeria as the giant of Africa. The envoy says Mandela was a legend, a role model, and the epitome of selflessness whose legacy and lifestyle should be emulated to better the living standard of Nigerians and Africans at large. Others at the event include Dr. Newton Jibuno, noted that Nigerians should sacrifice religious, political, ethnic differences so as to move the nation forward.
Before 1994, Nigeria supported the struggle for freedom in South Africa because it believed in the freedom and the justices of individuals. Nigeria is one of the best African countries in the continent alongside South Africa. What we can only do is to enhance the understanding of the values that Nelson Mandela espoused in order to inculcate the spirit amongst individuals in Nigeria.
His life was about people. His life was about humanity. And so that's what we have been told today, that we should live for people, make our society better than we met it.
Let loose the grudges of bitterness that pollute political economic system. Our current crop of political leaders in Nigeria should emulate him in his selflessness, in his values, so that Nigeria will be increasingly progressive.
Well, self-sacrifice. Forgiveness, endurance. So it's so much to learn from him, and obviously those are the things, the qualities the United Nations saw by declaring that 18th of July every year to be celebrated to celebrate his legacy.
Which also talks about climate change and how we must begin to plant trees everywhere, which is an example, to manage or mitigate the degradation, environmental degradation that we have today.
West African military chiefs have held a second day of talks in Ghana on Friday, preparing for possible armed intervention in Niger Republic after a coup removed President Mohamed Bazoum on July 26th. The Economic Community of West African States agreed to activate a standby force as a last resort to restore democracy in Niger Republic after generals toppled and detained Mohamed Bazoum. ECOWAS defense chiefs are in Accra, Ghana to fine-tune details of a potential military operation to restore Bazoum if negotiations with the coup leaders fail. According to a statement, only Cape Verde and countries led by military governments within the West African region are in opposition to the possibility of a military intervention, while all other countries in the 15-member bloc are ready to contribute to the regional force. Bazoum, whose 2021 election victory was a landmark in Niger Republic's troubled history, has been held with his family at the president's official residence since the coup, with growing international concern over his conditions in detention. ECOWAS leaders say they must act after Niger became the fourth West African nation since 2020 to suffer a coup following Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea. In Kenya, authorities have banned 5 churches, including that of a suspected cult leader accused of inciting more than 400 of his followers to starve themselves to death, according to a government document released on Friday. The Registrar of Societies said in a gazette that the license of Pastor Paul Intege Mackenzie, Good News International Ministries, was cancelled effective on May 19. Mackenzie is alleged to have incited his followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus, in a case that has deeply shocked Kenyans. While starvation appears to be the main cause of deaths, some of the victims, including children, were strangled, beaten, or suffocated, according to official autopsies. Authorities also banned 4 other churches, including the New Life Prayer Center and church headed by flamboyant televangelist Ezekiel Odero, who has been linked to Pastor Mackenzie. Odero is under investigation on a litany of charges, including murder, aiding suicide, radicalization and money laundering. His arrest in April followed the discovery of human remains in Shakahola Forest near the coastal town of Malindi. The police say the bodies belong to Mackenzie's followers. And an unidentified man set himself ablaze on Thursday in Mombasa, allegedly to protest the harsh economic challenges facing millions of Kenyans. He had climbed onto a top of a statue in the middle of a busy roundabout before setting himself alight. The rising cost of living amid a business slowdown and job cuts across the country has pushed millions of Kenyans into despair. The man was incensed by locals who claimed that he was setting himself on fire because he had stolen some goods. In a video that emerged online, the man was seen pouring liquids suspected to be flammable substance on his body before lighting himself on fire. A police officer based in Mombasa confirmed the incident to local authorities and media. Now, the man was rescued and taken to a nearby Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital where he is being treated. Now, the rise in the cost of living has primarily been linked to surging fuel prices, persistent drought conditions, and the depreciation of the shilling. Kenyans have previously taken to the streets to protest the rising cost of living in the country. And in sports, Liverpool has signed midfielder Wataru Endo from Stuttgart for a fee of about £16.2 million, subject to a work permit and international clearance. The 30-year-old Japan international has agreed a 4-year deal with Liverpool. The club has brought in Endo after missing out on Ecuador international Moises Caicedo and Belgian midfielder Romeo Lavia to Chelsea. Endo can also play at centre-back but has been signed primarily as a central defensive midfielder. The signing of the Japanese captain, who was also Stuttgart's skipper, follows the departures of midfielders Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, Naby Keita and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain from the Reds this summer. Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp has already secured reinforcements in the middle of the park for Liverpool with new signings like Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai starting in the 1-1 draw against Chelsea at the Stamford Bridge this past Sunday. Well, that's the complete roundup of the news bulletin at this hour. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms for more content and visit trusttv.com for more news. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and company. Good night.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.